Hey YouTube, what is up? I was going to do a Subterror deck profile for you guys today, but I wasn't able to get all the cards in real life, and I didn't feel like making a video where I proxied, so I'm going to do the deck profile this way. I run 3 Subterror Behemoth Stalagmo because it is Pot of Greed in this deck, and it has a lot of synergy with the Hidden City. It's also a level 10, so you can special summon it in really easy ways with cards like Tarot Tray. The fact that you can use it in tandem with the Prediction Princess engine actually works really well. You can use Stalagmo to be sent to the graveyard with Prediction Ritual to special summon Tarot Tray, and then special summon that Stalagmo back in your end phase thanks to Tarot Tray's effect. Or you could use it in tandem with cards like the Hidden City. When you activate the Hidden City, you add a Subterror monster from your deck to your hand. Then you use Stalagmo's effect when he's flipped to discard a Subterror card from your hand to the graveyard. Then you draw 2. So you basically activate the Hidden City, never lose hand advantage, and then you go +1 if you already have Stalagmo set. It's also a level 10, so you can actually make it Gustav Max in this deck and burn your opponent for 2k. Pretty ridiculous plays with the trains in this, and it also can become a 3000 defense, 3000 attack beater if you have 2 on the field, and you can actually get them on the field pretty easily thanks to cards like Nemesis Warrior, Tarot Tray, and Koinorma. I then run 3 Umastrix because Umastrix's ability to banish one monster my opponent controls when this card is flipped up is absolutely busted. It doesn't even target a face-up monster, which plays really well into this deck's ability to flip cards down on my opponent's side of the field and my own. So basically, if they have an untargetable monster, I can Book of Eclipse their whole side of the field because this doesn't target, and then I can use Umastrix's effect to be flipped to banish their card. Absolutely nuts. It's really an amazing card to use. The fact that you can banish any card as long as you can basically set it is amazing. That avoids targeting, it avoids being unaffected by card effects. It works really well, and if your opponent tries to Solemn Strike it, you can use the effect of Nemesis Warrior in the graveyard to block that. You can use Nemesis Warrior like you use Return of the Monarchs in the Monarch deck by making him Chainlink 2 to Umastrix's effect, because anytime a Subterror is flipped, you can special summon Nemesis Warrior from the graveyard as a Chainlink 2, and if your opponent wanted to strike your Umastrix's effect, they can't because it needs to chain directly to the monster's effect, so the only thing they could technically Solemn Strike, I think, would be Nemesis Warrior, and that really wouldn't do anything, and they just go neg from it. So you can actually block your larger monsters from having their effects negated as long as you have Subterror Nemesis Warrior in the graveyard, and when Subterror Nemesis Warrior is on the field, you can tribute it and another monster or monsters on your side of the field whose levels exceed a Subterror in your deck. You send that Subterror from the deck to the graveyard, and if you did succeed in making the 2 monsters levels greater than the Subterror, you get to special summon that Subterror to your side of the field, which makes a really easy way to get 2 level 10 Stalagmos on the field, 1 via Prediction Princess, and then 1 via Nemesis Warrior. I also run 1 Spirit of the Fall Wind because I get to add any flip monster from my deck to my hand, which is really good. I really enjoy the fact that I can add not only my Subterrors, but also my Prediction Princesses if I wanted to. If you didn't know, Koinorma special summons from my deck a level 3 or higher flip monster when it is flipped itself, and it sets that card on my side of the field. So I can literally special summon Stalagmo out of my deck just by flipping this card, and I can add this card to my hand by just using Spirit of the Fall Wind, or I could add any other Subterror flip monster to my hand and then ditch it with Subterror Stalagmo and draw 2. So there's a lot of decent combos in this deck. I run 3 Manju just to get either Tarot Tray or my Prediction Rituals to my hand. That's why I also run Pre-Prep of Rites. I also run Petalith. If you didn't know what Petalith does, she is basically a Quaking Mirror Force when she is flipped herself, but she changes them to face-up defense position. So I really like that just because it allows me to then swing over my opponent's monsters, because most monsters in this game have a lower defense now that their attacks are actually really higher. Monarchs are a good example of that. I then run 3 Tarot Tray because it is very key to this deck running. I can special summon Tarot Tray off of Prediction Ritual by sending pretty much just Stalagmo or Umastrix and Nemesis Warrior from my hand to the graveyard. You basically need to exceed Tarot Tray's level to special summon her on your side of the field through Prediction Ritual. Then you get to special summon in your end phase. You get to special summon any flip monster that's in your hand or in your graveyard to your side of the field in a face down defense position. That's actually pretty busted. And you have the ability to flip face up monsters on the field face down and face down monsters on the field face up during either player's turn. That is amazing, especially if your opponent needs a face-up card to resolve. You can cause it to miss timing by basically using this card, which is a Walking Book of Moon. I then run 3 Pre-Prep of Rites because it is busted in this deck. It's basically a guaranteed +1 to hand because I get to add 2 cards off of it, which is Tarot Tray and Prediction Ritual, and Prediction Ritual works really well on its own in the graveyard, so I am really glad that Pre-Prep works in this deck. I don't have to use like Advanced Ritual Art or anything stupid like that. Pre-Prep is way better. I run 1 Rhoda just so I can basically thin my deck and get Nemesis Warrior to hand, because I can ditch it very easily with cards like Stalagmo to draw 2. Then I can benefit from it being in the graveyard by preventing my opponent from basically stopping any of my monster effects, because I can make this a mandatory Chainlink 2. I then run 2 Pot of Desires because I run basically 3 of every combo piece in this deck. so I don't mind banishing one or two of them if it's going to give me game. I love Pot of Desires, the fact that I get to go +1 in a deck that allows me to go +1 for days anyway. So if I really need to push for game, Pot of Desires can help me out with that. Otherwise, I don't want to draw this card if I don't need to. It's a good way to basically go for the OTK. I don't really like to use it early game. I really like to use this card late game when I'm pushing for game pretty much. I then run 3 Prediction Ritual because I'm running 3 Tarot Tray. You can't really get away with anything less than that. The benefit of Prediction Ritual, though, is when it's in the graveyard, you can banish it and add any Prediction Princess from your deck to your hand, including Tarot Tray. So you can basically one turn bring out Tarot Tray, next turn banish this from your graveyard, add Koinorma, Petalith, or Tarot Tray to your hand. Then you get to choose basically if you want to special summon any other flip monster from your deck, if you want to flip all your opponent's cards into face-up defense position, or if you want to add Tarot Tray and then special summon another Tarot Tray in hand, because you can actually do that. So it works rather well in the deck, and the fact that it has a graveyard effect is just a bonus. I then run 1 Book of Moon. I feel like I would run more, but I don't need to. The fact that this targets, though, kind of sucks. I already have a Book of Moon as a monster already, but I figured one more couldn't hurt, especially if I'm flipping my own monsters face down. That's more what this is for, not really for flipping my opponent's cards, but rather my own, because if I flip my own monsters, I can actually flip them back up with my own card, so that works really, really well too. I can use this card to change my face-up Subterror monsters to face-down defense position, so that when they are attacked, they can trigger the Hidden City, negate the attack, flip them, and then banish my opponent's monster, or I discard 1 and draw 2. I run 2 Book of Eclipse just to stop my opponent because it is non-targeting. It flips all face-up monsters on the field to face-down defense position, which benefits me because then I can flip my own cards like Umastrix and then banish their face-down cards if they're problem cards. Maybe I can't swing over a Dark Destroyer or something similar to that and it can't be targeted. I Book of Eclipse the entire field, special summon Tarot Tray from hand, and just start flipping my cards face up and then swing over all their cards that are in defense position, and then they don't get the ability to draw for flipping their cards in end phase because I'm not going to leave them with cards on their field. The only way this card would be a minus is if I did not destroy my opponent's cards by using it. So I would only use this card in the event that I know I can destroy my opponent's monsters on the field, so that in the end phase they don't basically go plus over me not destroying their monsters and gaining an advantage that I didn't want them to have. I then run 1 Terraforming and 3 the Hidden City just because I want the Hidden City as early as possible. I might bump Terraforming up to 2, and I might take out the Book of Moon for that because I feel like getting the Hidden City is a lot more important than a Book of Moon. I'm still testing that a little bit, so for now I run 1 Terraforming and 3 the Hidden City. If you don't know what the Hidden City does, when it's activated you get to add a Subterror monster from your deck to your hand, and then once per turn when an opponent's monster declares an attack, you can change 1 face down defense position Subterror monster you control to face up attack or defense position, then negate the attack. You can only activate 1 Hidden City per turn. If my opponent attacks my Subterror, I get to flip it, negate the attack, and then activate my Subterror's effect, and then if it's Umastrix, I just banish their monster. So it's really, really good. I can then use the Hidden City's other effect, which is flip a face down defense position Subterror monster I control to face up defense position or face up attack position, and then I get to activate its effect that way too. So it actually is really, really good. I can basically flip 2 or 3 different cards on my side of the field thanks to cards like the Hidden City and thanks to cards like Tarot Tray. I also run 2 Quaking Mirror Force to basically flip my opponent's stuff face down so I can banish it with Umastrix or just swing over with Stalagmo. I then run 2 Floodgate Trap Hole because sometimes people expect the Quaking, but they don't expect the Floodgate Trap Hole because it's a relatively new card. So if my opponent is like a Pendulum player, they Pendulum summon 5 cards, Floodgate Trap Hole, set all of them, and just begin banishing them one at a time with cards like Umastrix, and they just can't do anything about it because their cards can't have their battle positions changed. So unless they sacrifice one of their monsters to bring out something like Kieran, they really have no other play, and I just banish most of their set cards turn after turn, and then I leave them with no field and 5 banished cards. I also run 1 Solemn Strike and 1 Solemn Warning because I feel like Solemn Strike's alright in this deck, and I feel like Warning is great, but I can't run more than 1 Warning, so I run a Strike instead of that. I like Strike, it's not that great though because there's a lot of ways to make it miss timing, that's why I only run 1. And then for my extra deck, I run 2 Gustav Max because I can make it really easily with Stalagmo, and I can special summon Stalagmo like it's nobody's business, so I can deal 2k to my opponent in my opening turn if I open rather well. I like to run 2 Phantom Fortresses because I can make it with Tarot Tray. I can banish 1 card my opponent controls, which works really well in tandem with Umastrix, or I can do other stuff like banish a card from their hand, banish a card from the grave, or banish the top card from their deck face up. So I basically just get to banish a lot of cards from wherever I want, basically preventing my opponent from making a play. I then run 1 Red Eyes Flare Metal, 1 Draco Sack, and 2 Big Eye because Umastrix is a level 7, which I can special summon very easily. I can flip Umastrix, use its effect, banish my opponent's monsters, then go into Big Eye and take anything that I did not banish and attack with it. so it works really well. Draco Sack's more for a defensive play, and Red Eyes Flare Metal is basically I'm going to make my opponent burn themselves to death trying to get out of my board. I then run 1 Utopia and 1 Lightning just to get out of Blue Eyes Chaos Max. This deck does struggle when a Chaos Max comes out turn 1. I then run 1 Karen Gorgon Anti-Luminescent Knight because it stops my cards from being targeted. If my opponent's going to MST a Solemn Warning or something like that, I can change the target to their side of the field. If they want to target a card on my side of the field with Dark Destroyer, I can change the target with Karen Gorgon. It works really well because most decks this time around only target 1 card at a time. The only thing this doesn't answer to is basically Twin Twister. Twin Twister basically shits on Karen Gorgon because they can target 2 cards. I then run 1 Super Quantum Mecha Beast Ouroboros because it's basically Book of Moon, so that's the only reason I'm running it. It's basically a level 4 Book of Moon in case I don't have another way to Book of Moon stuff if I don't have Tarot Tray on the field. I then run 1 Castel to basically set a card on their side of the field that I normally wouldn't be able to destroy, and then I Castel it away back to their extra deck. I use Daigusto Emerald just to recycle my cards back to my deck in case the game runs long, and I use Abyss Dweller to counteract any matchup that basically uses the graveyard, which includes Monarchs, Cosmo to some extent, and the Water matchup. Thank you guys for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed. If you liked it, don't forget to follow me on Twitter @Schwabs or like my Facebook page to see when I post these videos. And if you really enjoyed it, don't forget to click subscribe because it's free, it's fun, and I'll see you guys in the next one.